Hi, my name is Alex, and in this video we're going to do a One Faith World Conquest setup for the Teutonic Order. I think I'll finish this video by about 1600 as a part 1. If you'd like to see a part 2, please give this video a like. If it gets, let's say, 200 likes within the first couple of weeks, I will then complete the One Faith and post it. I only want to give you the content which you appreciate. This teaser is from the previous patch, 1.34. I'm curious myself if I can do one culture on 1.35. That said, let's dive in. In my previous video, where I did a full world conquest as Russia on 1.35, I mentioned that Russia wasn't the best country to do a One Faith world conquest with. Today I want to introduce you to one country which is well suited for this achievement and show why. As the Teutonic Order, after completing a few simple but interesting initial missions, the game gives you a choice to go the Prussian path, where you can become an overpowered Prussia really fast, which is more or less historical, or you can choose the fantasy path, where you become a Holy Horde. This second path is what you want to take for a straightforward and easy One Faith achievement. Each path opens completely different mission trees, 4 in total. Here you can see the mission tree culminating in the Holy Horde. Then you can get the Holy Horder achievement if you form the Mongol Empire with the Holy Horde government reform enacted. This video guide will have 2 objectives. First is to get 2,000 to 2,500 development by the year 1600. Second is to form the Holy Horde government by the same year. To achieve that, we'll need to annex the northern part of Lithuania, most of Poland, win a bunch of battles, and get high army professionalism, conquer and convert at least 25 provinces in Ruthenia and 15 provinces in the Pontic Steppes, conquer and convert Northern Caucasus, 20 provinces in the Urals, fill our army first with 25,000 and then 50,000 cavalry, push into the region of Central Asia, before finally becoming the Holy Horde. And as always, for fun, we can also complete the missions of our vassals. If they advance our objectives, of course. The obvious problem with this mission tree is that most of this land is low development and away from strong trade centers and trade routes, requiring a lot of coring and conversion, so most of the time our economy will be shit. Even as we grow in development, we cannot manually upgrade our government rank. We can only go from a duchy to a kingdom to an empire by changing our fixed government types. That's only possible via missions. Starting off as a monastic order, we'll form a crusader order, which is a kingdom, and then become the Holy Horde, which is an empire. In result, the governing capacity will be the bottleneck for most of the game. We will be min-maxing several things. First, missionaries, of which we will have 12. 1 from base, 1 from religious ideas, 1 defender of faith, 2 from permanent counter-reformation, which is possible as the Teutonic Order, 3 from the government reforms, 1 from province of Mecca, and 3 from different monuments, Jerusalem, Bratsberg, and San Antonio in North America. The second thing we will max out will be our missionary strength via different reforms, policies, and decisions. And third will be our siege ability, -10 from espionage, -20 from the espionage and divine policy, -20 offensive, -20 with max army professionalism, 5 from army tradition, 20 from being a military hegemon, and another 20 from the max spy network against our major targets. So up to 115. We will also max out our separatism control all the way down to 0, administrative efficiency, and culture conversion discounts. Here is what I recommend for the government reforms. Tier 1 will obviously be your monastic order or Holy Horde. For Tier 2, I recommend mission of protection for the extra missionary. For Tier 3, education of missionaries for faster conversion. Tier 4, maintain balance of power for an extra diplomat. Tier 5, organized military staff for cheaper and faster reinforcements. Tier 6 may allow us to become a republic or a monarchy, but we will not do that, so extra absolutism. Tier 7, zealous administrators for culture conversion. Tier 8, war economy for cheaper troops. Tier 9, expulsion of heathens for even more culture conversion discounts and development costs. Tier 10, divine guidance for more absolutism, or constitutional theocracy for less rebellions. Tier 11, God and man for another missionary. Tier 12, religious society for more governing capacity. And Tier 13, the overpowered one state under God for -30% war score cost versus other religions. Or, if you are mostly fighting Catholics at the end of the game, then take priestly autonomy for a little more administrative efficiency. Okay, thank you for listening to my prepared remarks, and let's dive in. We select the Teutonic Order, Iron Man, and we go. I would assume that you know, either from playing the Teutons or from watching videos about them, that they have a nasty disaster waiting to happen in the early game, the Prussian Confederation. To avoid that disaster, we need to have more than 40% crown land. As such, this is one of the starts when I don't recommend taking any state privilege that lowers your crown land until you have prevented that disaster. I'm just taking a bunch of privileges to increase the state loyalty, accelerate reform progress, buff my diplomatic reputation, and give me some prestige and cash. Because we are a monastic order, we cannot compete for a PU over my beloved Burgundy, or for any PUs for that matter, so this game will be a straightforward, uncomplicated conquest. And please forgive my meme opening. We open with a good old classic, no CB on Byzantium. First things first, our mission tree allows us to peacefully vassalize the Livonian Order. All we need to do is get 150 relationships with them. This can be done fast by insulting their rivals, giving them military access, and improving a little bit of relationships. Oof, here is why I both love and hate playing as the Teutons. You can select your heir from 6 options. Each option affects your relationships with the estates, up or down, and can give you a bit of money, relationship boosts, and so on. Most of these heirs are not good, but they do change really fast. If you have the patience to do it, you can save scum up to 6 times to get the best of the lot. And honestly, if I get someone horrible with zeros, I would probably do it. This will become less relevant in the future though, after we start raising provinces, because we'll be literally drowning in mana. Also, one of the government reforms, Tier 9, allows you to see the skills of these heirs before selecting them. Okay, here we go. My war declaration to protect Byzantium. Everyone, apart from the Ottomans, would give us the military access to reach our enemy, and with Ottomans we need to improve our relationships first. While we do that, we can complete the Livonian Order mission. I find that as long as we have the Diplo Rep advisor, this mission always properly vassalizes the Livonians. Just like now, the Livonian Order is our new vassal. Just as it happened in history. Successfully completing this mission gives us some temporary military buffs. Okay, with the Ottoman military access, we can now reach our target. As always, the goal in this early war against Byzantium is to plant your army on Constantinople and siege at least 2 of their combined forts, or all 3, before the Ottomans join the war. Of course, don't forget to cancel all the military access you got on the way down south, not to drain your diplomatic mana. Byzantium is allied to Teodoro, whom I cannot be bothered to reach. So I just waited long enough to have enough war score to vassalize both Byzantium and Athens. Unlike in my Russia run, the Ottomans this time have not declared on Byzantium, so I couldn't cause a defensive war against them by vassalizing my foe. Now that we don't need emergency military access, we can finally set Poland and Lithuania as our rivals. In this game, Lithuania did not become the junior partner of Poland. I really don't appreciate that, because now I will have to fight these 2 countries separately with their separate alliance networks. My usual strategy when the Polish-Lithuanian union does happen is to really go all out against Poland. Destroy their army, occupy their lands, and normally this brings Lithuanian liberty desire above 50, making them a passive war participant. Oh well, it is what it is. While I was rambling, having 3 vassals has increased my relative standing. So much so that Austria and Bohemia were willing to ally me. It's now November 1449, we can seize land again, bringing our crown land ownership to 40%. To complete Handle the Confederation mission, we also need at least +1 stability. Et voila! Mission done, and we have avoided a massively unpleasant disaster. Next on the menu is Epirus. We want to deny these 2 provinces to anyone else. They are allied to the Knights. And even though I managed to land 1 party of my troops on the Rhodes Island, my fleet cannot compete with that of the enemy. But overall, it's a quick and easy war and we can peace out. Now, I don't always open with an OCB on Byzantium. In my Nevers to France 2 series video, I obviously didn't do it, and fought the Ottomans in their prime. I didn't do it in my Triple the Rome video either, and I didn't fight the Ottomans at all in that game. However, in this run, we will need several provinces which the Ottomans tend to occupy, and I simply want to be efficient about my wars. I know, some people actively dislike this opening, and to you guys I apologize. What do you think? Let me know in the comments under the video. The next mission, Expand Our Army, requires us to be at the force limit and have a military advisor. Completing it gives us claims on a part of Poland. Poland has allied Gotland and Sweden after supporting Sweden's independence. And now Poland is entangled in Sweden's liberation war against Denmark. A great moment to attack. I haven't called any allies into this war, simply because I don't have enough favors yet, and I don't want to give any land to Bohemia. I also stupidly forgot to increase my army maintenance before declaring this war. Let's see if my troops are strong enough to still win this engagement, despite my stupidity. And they are. This is one of the big perks of playing Prussia or Teutons. They are forgiving of your military mistakes as a player. I've managed to bring down the liberty desire of my new vassals by paying their debts, improving relations, and simply having a large army. So now they're helping me in this war. After carrying 10 favors with Austria, I can call on their help, making this war much easier. One helpful thing to do before calling your allies, not like I did here after, is to mark the provinces of your strategic interest, so that the allies will give their occupation over to you. Austria doesn't want anything from Poland yet. They will do later though, but for now I'm able to mark the entire Polish territory as my strategic interest. Soon enough Sweden ends up with 0 troops. A great moment to get them out of this war. Later in the game I will want their lands to improve my trade in the Baltic Sea, but for now I'll focus on Poland. There we go, I can literally take everything I wanted from them for 97% war score. This allows me to embrace Renaissance and pass the critical mission of defeating Poland. This mission gives us a choice, which I had mentioned earlier in this video. This is where the timelines diverge and we go down the Teutonic Order timeline. By getting more development, we can secure greater loans. And in an operation known as Florinomics, we pay back the old, smaller loans and get the new ones. For my next step, I want to ally Hungary, that is growing strong. We both have a lot of Polish and Moldavian land set as strategic interest, so I tactically remove my interest and Hungary allies me. In this campaign, I really want to remove the Ottoman threat early. I will promise Hungary land if they join my fight, with 0 intention to honor this promise. I'll try to keep my alliance with Hungary by growing favors, to convert those into trust. I will fight them most likely in part 2. For now, I just want them to keep joining my wars, so they remain small. The Ottomans are fighting a sizable alliance of Venetian friends. The bad news is that all their troops are on the European side of Bosphorus. The good news is the attention is divided between these two wars. In more good news, Austria joins us in this war, and in more bad news, most of my vassals are disloyal, not wanting to fight, and Bohemia breaks their alliance with us, because we are allied to rivals and they desire one of my provinces, Poznan. After a few years, the Ottoman allies lose their will to fight. We've occupied most of their European lands, and we can demand what we want in a peace treaty. I want to conserve my mana, so all the new provinces go to Byzantium. Having ignored the Hungarian interests, despite their high war participation, of course we have lost their trust, so they now want to break their alliance with us. I don't have enough favors to grow my trust. Let's see. Strangely enough, they remain my ally despite me doing nothing. So I now have Austria, Burgundy and Hungary as my allies, and I feel pretty safe, even though I'm no longer part of the Holy Roman Empire. My mission tree requires me to expand into Lithuania, and that's exactly what I do. I've also started investing into the papal control. I will soon be generating a ton of papal influence, and I want to convert it into being the papal controller. I'm losing money every month, so I prefer giving the occupation of the enemy forts to my vassals, so they lose money instead. If needed, I can later repay their loans to increase their loyalty. I've already annexed Riga a little bit earlier in this war. Now I can take what I need from Lithuania. This completes one of our cool missions on the way to becoming the Holy Horde. We get army tradition, devotion, permanent claims and a bunch of other stuff. In this game, I will be concentrating everything I can. One of my declared objectives is One Faith, and obviously it's faster to convert provinces when they have less development. My secondary possible objective is One Culture. For One Culture runs, it's a must to concentrate. In fact, I will be moving my capital all the time, so I can keep concentrating. I target to reach the point when I can raise provinces by 1600, and after that I will be raising everything non-Catholic. By now the truce with Poland has expired, and after declaring the provinces of our strategic interest, we attack. In this campaign, I'm getting this too many cowards event a lot. That's because I took the offensive ideas, and this event keeps wiping out my manpower. By the way, the first idea group I took was offensive. I'm way over my diplomatic relations limit, and I'm coring a lot, so the admin and diplomana are at premium right now. Later on, I will take the divine military ideas, because they synergize well with espionage. A couple of years later, after an easy war, I can grab a bunch of high development land from Poland. Lots of people will join the coalition now, but I will have to deal with this. Had I taken the espionage ideas first, I would not have had this problem. To save on diplomatic relationships, I prefer annexing Athens as soon as possible. My economy has improved somewhat after I expanded the trade control. I'm now making 5 ducats at full army and full fort maintenance. I've decided to pay back the loans I've taken before because I want to have access to bigger loans in the future. Another approach here is to use this money to build money-producing buildings and then pay back the loans. Yeah, Austria decided to enforce the APU on Bohemia. In part 2, I may have to fight a strong Hungary and a strong Austria. I now have a lot of enemies, so there is a real risk of them supporting the independence of my vassals if my vassal's liberty desire goes above 50. Keeping this liberty desire down is critical. Aha, this coalition didn't last even 2 years. That's great to see. Well, there we go. I would have much preferred Austria to remain weak. With Bohemia gone as an independent power, I have a new rival slot. An obvious candidate, given my mission tree, is Muscovy. Oof, that's not bad. 70 ducats from this heir's merchant family and a great skill set. So, 1478, we are number 4 great power. I consider this being on track to meet our goals, and I finally have some spare administrative power to full core a few more states. This will give us more money, trade and soldiers. We're conquering relatively high development land in relatively good trade nodes. And we can even pass the increase our income mission. A short while ago I've taken my second idea group, which is espionage. It is 1483 and it is high time to attack into Muscovy. They already have a lot more troops than I do, and this disparity will only grow if I don't stop them now. To make this first war a little bit easier, I had allied and carried favors with Sweden, because for all my other allies this is a distant war and they simply won't join it. I think I need a checklist of what to do before declaring a war, because once again I forgot to set a few critical provinces as my land of strategic interest, specifically up north here in the former Novgorod. Sweden have already claimed those, so if they occupy these lands, they will keep the occupation. And of course, they go straight for Novgorod, which I wanted to get for myself. Muscovy is engaged in a war with Kazan, which is quite far in the east. I'm hoping to siege a few of their forts before they bring their troops here to the west. Moskva falls soon enough. Most of the Muscovite army is busy sieging my forts all the way back on the Baltic Sea coast. No one seems to be interested to fight any battles. I am not quite sure what I was thinking, setting the war goal so far down in the south. It's taken me a ton of time to siege my way through lines of forts to reach the target. A useful thing to remember is to give the occupation of the enemy forts you've taken to your vassals. I know that my troops are quite a bit stronger than those of Muscovy, and I'm chasing its armies around the map to build up some war score. It wasn't that smart on their side to bring a large army into my heartland. They have limited paths to withdraw because of my forts. And now I'm intercepting and destroying their armies one after another. Come to think of it, I may have done a little bit too much intercepting. My 20,000 strong army is almost out of men, and I decided to send it into a remote corner behind a bunch of forts to recover. At any rate, soon enough, after piecing out a bunch of Muscovy allies, we go for the critical first peace deal. Obviously I cannot take Novgorod because Sweden has occupied it, but I can take a lot of land in the Novgorod trade center. Also can take Moscow itself, so preventing the formation of Russia in this game. To reach Moscow, I had to snake my way deep into isolated enemy territory. If I were to core these provinces by myself, I would need to do this one by one, and with no coring discounts, it takes me 3 years to core one province. I've decided to take a calculated risk and release Novgorod as a new vassal. On the negative, it will be another large vassal to balance the liberty desire for. On the positive, I will save time and mana coring these lands. Plus, both Novgorod and Muscovy share the same religion and culture group, and this means less rebellions. After this war, I had to take a couple of years to recover my manpower and to fight off a whole wave of rebellions. All this fighting gave me enough victories to pass another mission, improving my army tradition gain and cavalry to infantry ratio until the end of the game. Personally, I like reducing autonomy in my stated provinces to gain more money and soldiers. In the past, I used to increase this autonomy in an effort to avoid rebellions, and I tended to end up with impoverished countries. Okay, we have now surpassed our rival Lithuania in development. This boosted our power projection, and we can set up Poland as our next rival. My plan was to attack Lithuania next. Would have been better if they remained my rival, so I cancelled that plan and decided to go for the Ottomans. The Ottomans have managed to either integrate or conquer Crimea, and I'm worried that they will now start eating into my targets, Lithuania, Muscovy and the Great Horde. I just want to keep weakening them every time I can. Every time a bad event happens like this one, we simply pull it to the side of the screen and let it expire. This makes the next negative event appear 4 months later than it would have done otherwise. Ah, the Pope must have declared a crusade against the Ottomans? Great. These are all minor buffs, but there is a lot of them. Now, as you can see, the Ottoman armies are still very strong this early in the game. My allies have gone brain dead and are running around the map in small stacks, getting stack wiped. As a human player, I will have to carry the bulk of this fighting. I need money for this war, and the burghers' loans give me a lot of it. As much as I dislike hiring mercenaries without taking the mercenary ideas, I do need some. The Ottomans have built a death stack of almost 40,000 troops, and they're using it as a wrecking ball down in the south. I have a very high army tradition now, giving me excellent generals. It could be also a good idea to appoint your ruler or heir as a general, especially if they have poor stats. If I had a strong fleet, it would have been an excellent bait and lock for the Ottoman army here on the island. But I have not built a fleet, so I'm trying to intercept the Ottoman stacks on the exit from the island. While I do this search and destroy on the main body of the enemy troops, my allies have crossed into the Anatolian side. For all intents and purposes, this war is already won. And that's when we stack wipe the biggest enemy army. This nasty event I cannot delay. Either choice loses stability. Soon enough, we can peace out Akko Yunlu by cancelling its alliances, and I'm pretty happy with the peace deal with the Ottomans. I'm taking a bunch of their forts, rich lands, and destroying their influence in the Constantinople trade center. In doing so, I'm creating a monster of Byzantium. Compared to my size, they will be ever more disloyal. At the same time, they're a built-in powerful ally. From here on, we will discover a powerful aspect of playing Teutons as Catholics, transforming our massive religious conversion strength into the papal influence. With the help of our national ideas, religious ideas, and policies, we will be converting even the most difficult provinces in no time, building up enough papal influence to be the papal controller frequently. My ally Burgundy decided to remain Burgundian, which of course means a war with France. Collectively, our alliance is quite a bit stronger than them. I'm actually surprised that the French alliance has no cannons. Still, France is strong and rich. They obviously can recruit a lot of mercenaries. I'm not yet ready to death war them, especially on the Burgundian terms. So I've decided to help Burgundy just enough for them to remain independent. Oh well, another day, another heir. That's also part of the Teuton experience. Wow, the enemy ally Venice is actually trying to siege one of my forts in Krakow. How cute. Oof, one of the reasons I like playing late game is because usually I have much better rebel control. When you expand fast early game, you get spammed by rebels. As I go on helping Burgundy win this war, I cannot get rid of the thought, am I creating a monster? On one hand, I'm weakening France. On the other hand, the independent Burgundy will immediately join the Holy Roman Empire, making them tougher to fight later on. Anyway, in the end, I've made my bet. Burgundy has been a great ally, so I decided to protect them. I also wanted to test my armies against strong European powers, such as France and its allies, and I have to admit, my armies are performing very well. Why is it that the enemy AI always performs better than your ally AI? Although they have sustained more casualties, they now have more soldiers and cannons than we do. Anyway, I guess this isn't an existential war for France. They peace out soon enough, and my friend Burgundy has remained Burgundian. They even gained 2 French provinces out of this war. And of course, just as I feared, Burgundy immediately asks to join the Holy Roman Empire. As soon as we can return to our core plotline, Poland immediately gets back on the menu, because why wouldn't it? In this game, Poland and Lithuania are historical friends, so even without the personal union relationships, they keep allying each other. I'd love to interrupt this re-alliance loop, so I could fight them separately in the future. My third national idea gives me extra infantry compatibility, and I already have the extra cavalry compatibility from my traditions. Because I have been expanding a lot through vassals, I haven't been using a lot of my administrative power, so I'm using it to develop my Prussia-cultured provinces. This early game, tax development is still meaningful, so I'm getting a little bit extra income from this. By the way, both Hungary and Sweden are excellent allies. If you take a look at my map, you will see their armies all over. They're fighting, sieging, supporting me in battles. Fantastic guys. I guess it's happening because our armies are stronger than the enemy. I am not sure they would be this helpful if we were fighting the Ottomans right now. Remember how I complained that our heirs would be weak? Well, I was wrong. I've been going mostly for the merchant faction, and I've been getting excellent rulers, as well as some money. Muscovy has allied Hungary, a smart move on their side. I decided to attack Muscovy, while Hungary is engaged into the same war with me against Poland. I can now start piecing out the enemies from my first war. For example, I can grab some of my claims and money from Lithuania here, This way I can use up some of my admin mana, which is otherwise going to waste. Look, I told you Sweden was a good ally. They're landing their troops on Gotland for me. And now I can get Gotland out of this war. I hesitated piecing out Poland before I complete the Muscovy war, because I suspect Hungary will join against me on the Muscovy side. But I'm already getting a call for peace, increasing my war exhaustion, so I decided to peace out. As part of this peace deal, I want to break the Polish-Lithuanian alliance. Now that my troops are sitting on Novgorod, I'm happy to bring Sweden into this war. I've taken the Polish territories in this strange shape, because I was avoiding taking the lands on which Hungary has its strategic interest. Unfortunately, after a short while, Hungary does join the war on the Muscovy side. My best ally will now be a formidable enemy, at least for now. The Hungarian troops are strong, they have better cavalry than I do, and they have extra discipline. So as you can see here, they're making things more difficult for me.
Our men are running from the battlefield! Shameful display!
So I reluctantly decided to hire some more mercenaries. My generals are still mostly good, and back into battle we go. I obviously want to get Hungary out of this war without angering them too much, so I can ally them back. And after besieging their capital Pest, which is only a one-level fort, that's exactly what we do. Before they manage to unsiege those high attrition enemy forts up north. We can even take some money. Unfortunately, we have lost all the favors accumulated with Hungary, and whilst they are allied to our rival Muscovy, it will be not easy to re-ally them. The rest of the war is super easy. In the peace deal, we take a few claims, and we isolate what remains of Muscovy from its neighbors, as far as we can go. I know, I'm not being very efficient with my coring reach, but neither Lithuania nor the Ottomans can attack into the weakened Muscovy right now. Now that I have broken the Muscovite alliances, Hungary is happy to be my friend again. I'm being so stubborn reallying strong people, because this permits me to maintain a relatively small army. As such, I can invest my money into buildings and trade centers, instead of maintaining a high military expense. Even if my missionaries are still weak, I am always converting, both to reduce rebellions and build up the papal influence. Ottomans, my friends, did you miss me? It's that time again. The Ottomans have allied their sworn enemy Venice. I've never seen this before, but I guess it makes sense, given that they're both facing a powerful bloc of Teutons, Austria, Bohemia and Hungary. As we convert more provinces to Catholic, we take another step towards becoming a Holy Horde. The rewards are very rich, I have to say. Admin mana, military tradition, manpower, all very helpful. I keep full coring the lands for better economy and a stronger army. I hope I can improve my government rank before running out of the governing capacity. Each war is increasingly easy. For now, I just keep bouncing between the same opponents as I go down my mission tree. Sweden keeps allying my war targets. After I broke their alliance with Poland a while ago, now they have allied Lithuania. Good thing I have carried a lot of favors with them. Lithuania also wouldn't stay not allied to Poland. Every time I break them apart, they come together like quicksilver. I haven't been paying attention, but apparently Protestantism is getting entrenched. This is actually good news for me. I will only be able to raise non-Catholic provinces, so the more provinces in Europe change religion, the better it is for me. The Age of Reformation finally starts in 1516. Finally, the age abilities will be helpful to me. For my third idea group, I prefer to take religious. It's almost a must for the Holy Horde. This is a super easy war. The only reason I haven't signed the peace deal yet is because I've been waiting for the previous course to complete. With no co-creation discounts, it takes me 3 years to core. Okay, now we can sign our peace. Poland goes first. And then Lithuania. What remains of these two countries is now well and isolated from everybody else. Hungary is such a great ally that they come and help me beat the Byzantine pretenders even after the peace is signed. I'm afraid I may be feeling sorry when backstabbing them later in the game. The rebellion in Crete reminds me I have no fleet. I'm earning well enough now to afford some ships. I haven't built any trade ships yet. This honestly is a mistake. I'm missing out on trade income and on the naval tradition. In 1520, we are now the #1 great power with a great margin versus the second best, France. And my goodness, a whole lot of people have revolted against me. During my next war against Muscovy, I finally became the papal controller. You must know it includes a whole lot of perks. Faster diplomatic integration, less aggressive expansion, more diplomats, and so on. I now consistently have the biggest amount of papal influence because of how many religious conversions I'm making. Yeah, I forgot to mention, Muscovy was allied to Hungary and Ottomans, so it's not an easy war this time. As usual, we get the allies out first, and then we negotiate with Moscow. I've committed one big inefficiency. In my effort to isolate countries I was fighting from one another, I made long snakes deep into their territory. Obviously, I was unable to core so far from my own borders, and I gave a lot of this difficult to core land to Novgorod, so they can deal with it. I don't directly border any provinces in Muscovy anymore, and coring there is a pain. Yep, a magnificent day indeed. We are once again the papal controller, and we continue converting. I've been investing a lot of my money in buildings, so to embrace colonialism, I need one quick loan. My missions are gifting me even more papal influence. All these activities are synergizing really well. Sweden has what I want, namely trade. I no longer need them to fight Muscovy, and it's time to backstab them. Before my great betrayal though, I'll ask them to break their alliance with England, so it's easier for me to fight them. Well, maybe they can help me fight Lithuania one last time. Super easy war. Unfortunately, because Lithuania keeps reallying Poland, my truce with Poland never expires, so I can't co-belligerate them and still don't have enough war score to annex them. From Lithuania itself, we can take a few more lands. I keep running out of eligible rivals, and it is with a heavy heart that I set Hungary as my rival. Unfortunately, as I expand, they desire a lot of my land, and our days of love and friendship are in the distant past. Well, my next good friend is Burgundy. We don't have any conflict of interest yet, and I keep growing their trust in me by answering their calls to arms. I'm slowly integrating Byzantium to improve my trade situation. I want to directly own all that rich land. Controlling their loyalty though is a challenge. Their obvious first choice for the first age ability is minus 20% war score against other religions. I'll now mostly be pushing into the Protestant and Muslim lands, and this will come very handy. My religious conversion program is going swimmingly. Only with 3 missionaries. Soon enough I will have many more of them. This mission upgrades our government to the next rank. And we get much more governing capacity, meaning freedom to expand. To a large extent, a successful world conquest begins by creating a large stated base, where you dominate the trade and can make a lot of money, as well as generate a great amount of manpower. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm establishing my heartland, from which, a bit later, I will grow exponentially. I'm a little bit wary becoming a defender of faith. Yes, it gives a lot of good benefits, including an extra missionary. But honestly, I don't want to fight in the League War. Or, if these wars happen, I want the Catholics to lose, simply so I have more provinces to raise. Anyway, if the League Wars do happen, I will need to simply decline the call to arms. Another thing I started to do is growing my army professionalism. First, I need it for some of my missions. And second, I like having lots of it, because it does make my armies stronger. Kazan has grown rather large here in the corner. They look ripe enough for me to take. This war involves a lot of walking around in remote provinces. I will need quite a few of them for my missions. And that's what happens when you get carried away and forget to cancel an alliance with your next war target. Sweden in this case. Now I have to decline their call to arms and lose reputation. At least that alliance is finally cancelled. That's a positive. Bukhara, this bright orange blob over here, is a tough one to fight. They have only a single one-level province fort on their capital and nothing else. So to get enough war score with them, I have to occupy quite a lot of their lands, taking ages of travel time. I also suspect that they will now be allying themselves to all my future war targets, just to make it interesting for me. For now, let's just get them out of this war. Well, Burgundy fought an entire war just to get some war reparations. At least they didn't grow. I can't reach the capital of Chagatai, another ally of Kazan. But I already can get quite a few provinces from Kazan itself, including a gold-producing province, which I believe is my first in this campaign. Ooh, I love that. Council of Trent while I'm the papal controller. I can define the Catholic policies towards heretics for the rest of the game. Harsh, everything harsh, of course. I am, after all, the sword of the Catholic Inquisition. On completing this mission Reform the Army, we get an insane army tradition growth modifier. At the moment, I have 9,000 cavalry. When I have 25,000, I will unlock my next mission, further improving the quality of my army. Meanwhile, I've attacked Sweden for the trade. They happen to be allied to Scotland, whom I want to invade to have a foothold on the British Isles. My plan is to first thoroughly beat Sweden, and then land my army on the Isles. As you can see here, Sweden has a bunch of forts on the eastern border. It's part of the mission, so it's almost always here. it'll take a bit of attrition to siege here in the snow. Soon, Stockholm falls. My allies and vassals are doing a lot of heavy lifting, and I believe I can spare some troops for Scotland. Because of how poorly I have set up the Novgorodian borders, I won't be able to core these two provinces of Bela Ozera, so I have to give them to Novgorod directly. Okay, by now Sweden has been mostly occupied. My ally Burgundy and its vassal Holland has decimated its fleet, and I'm ready to use the first ever naval operation of this campaign, the invasion of Scotland. I've been so completely focused on land operations that my fleet is embarrassingly tiny, only 11 ships. Scotland alone can easily throw me back, but the fleets of Burgundy and Holland save the day, can now land and occupy a foothold. The Swedish fleet shows out of nowhere and destroys 3 out of my measly 11 boats. My allies are more competent in the naval warfare than I am though, and under their cover, I take another risk and land my troops in Scotland. The fates of Scotland and soon enough England are sealed now. While all this naval drama was going on, I kept recruiting cavalry, and I can now pass this mission adapt to the plains. Along with a bunch of excellent buffs, this mission gives me faster armies. I love it and should make good use of it while fighting in the east. My armies are already strong enough to stack wipe sizable troops of the enemy, and it will only get better from here. After taking all 3 of Scotland's forts, in the peace deal I'm taking 2 provinces which turn out to be ridiculously overdeveloped. Edinburgh with 28 development. This province also has a nice castle, which will give me a free military policy when I upgrade it to the magnificent level. And Ayrshire with 36 development. I mean, this is ridiculous. Even after concentrating, these 2 provinces have 22 and 29 development. I'm obsessing over this, just in case I may want to go for one culture in the second part of this campaign. Ayrshire is a coal province, which is why it is being developed to this ridiculous level. It could be a good idea for me in the future to prioritize taking the coal provinces from my enemies. As for Sweden, I return a bunch of provinces to Novgorod and take a few for myself. Not having taken the administrative ideas yet, I don't have any coring reductions, and in this case I prefer to release Finland to core these provinces for me, and also because Finland has claims on Sweden for my future wars. As I grow, my vassals are becoming more loyal, apart from the overdeveloped Byzantium of course, but those guys will be integrated pretty soon. For the sake of completion, I'll mention something obvious. I have been consistently and stubbornly seizing land to grow my crown ownership. This accelerates my government reforms and also prepares my country for the age of absolutism. And from now on, I will be slowly withdrawing the estate privileges. We are now in 1550s, so a quick check-in. Our Teutonic Order is #1 greatest power on the list, twice removed from the runners-up. We are overflowing with papal influence because of how many provinces we have been converting. We have excellent generals, strong army, good manpower control, and we're progressing nicely along our mission tree. All in all, we are on track. To complete this part 1, we have just a few wars remaining, none of which present a particular challenge. The first one will be against the Great Horde. Just for fun, I've created a full cavalry army of Teutonic Knights here. I'm using this army to run around the field and stack wipe the enemy troops. Unfortunately, unlike in the previous versions of Europa Universalis, in EU4 all the armies move at the same speed, so a full cavalry army is no faster than a full artillery army, for example. But this cavalry sure is good at stack wiping everyone it meets. I don't know what is wrong with some countries, like Koyunlu here. They seem to always be allied to the wrong guys. Look how powerful the conversions are. Plus 14 papal influence for converting Ayrshire. Bukhara is another annoying guy, always on the wrong side of history. I will need to properly attack them directly later. For now, I just want to get them out of this war. This is what we want now. These provinces north of the Caspian Sea, needed for our missions. While running my armies around the steppes, almost missed that Swedish separatists are about to break free here in Finland. This could be an unpleasant mistake, but at least we have intercepted it this time. I almost feel uncomfortable beating up these little guys here. Ottomans, Bukhara, Kazan. If not for my mission tree, I would now be pushing down south into the Mamelukes and India. While I was sitting here wondering why Granada is still alive and why they didn't join my war against their ally Ottomans, my own vassal Byzantium got integrated. That's great, I much prefer owning this rich trade land directly. Granada looks very enticing though. After dishonoring the Ottoman CTA, they are now allied only to Tunis. And I admit, I did toy with an idea of declaring an OCB war against them. By the way, here is the mission which allows you to embrace the counter-reformation indefinitely until the end of the game. giving you 2 permanent missionaries. You need to be Catholic, you need to have high religious unity, and you need not have any of the post-Reformation religions. Orthodox Christianity is okay. I don't yet have enough money to start building cathedrals in my provinces. That would give me +3 missionary strength. I'm not using the enforced religious unity edicts either in my provinces. That one gives +1 strength. Nor am I enacting any estate privileges, which increase the strength. All this will come later. Even so, my religious conversions are fast and powerful. I'm losing a bit of money when converting high development provinces. Other than that, my economy is quite healthy. I would love to take all the Pontic steps from the Ottomans in this peace deal. That's what I need for my missions, but I prefer to prioritize taking the Ottoman land right next to Hungary. Hungary has grown enough for my tastes. I believe it's the first time in this campaign when I went above 100% overextension. Well, in this case it is worth it. The trick here is not to click off the negative events immediately, just let them expire in the corner of your screen. While fighting off all those rebels caused by the overextension, I had a small victorious war against Little Serbia down here. Its neighbor Albania is under the Hungarian protection, and they're not my priority right now. On the other hand, Kazan and Bukhara are a priority in this particular game. I really don't like fighting for these low development provinces, and my only consolation is that this route is taking me down to India. Mughals have managed to form in this campaign, a rarity. I would love to border them and attack into them as soon as possible to prevent their expansion. A gold rush, almost 1,000 ducats. Sure. It's time to adopt the printing press institution anyway, so we loan up and take it. And now we can take our 4th idea group, which in my case will be administrative. This will accelerate coring and, as such, expansion. My goodness, these wars against Bukhara take ages, even with my accelerated movement speed. And after a couple of years of trudging about in the steppes, we can get them out of this war. I only need a few provinces from them for my missions. I will need to attack them as a primary target though, to make my way down to India, so I want to at least break their alliance with Bengal. As for Kazan, they're gone now. You can see I have claims on all of their provinces, so this is another small step towards becoming the Holy Horde. Akkayunlu never learns and keeps allying my targets, so they have to lose a bit more land. As for Nagai, I can swallow them whole. As well as Perm. And what remains of my original super adversary, Muscovy. Ah, here they are, the League's wars, but as I had mentioned before, I'm going to politely decline. I don't remember coming across this event, a comet which gives stability. A quick cleanup here in the 2 breakaway rebel states. And Lithuania, about whom literally no one cares. I've spent time taking this little Teodoro here because I need these provinces for my province count for the missions. And what remained of Poland just for clean borders. And there we go, 2 more missions complete in the steppes, giving us better cavalry, army professionalism, papal influence and more claims. Austria is an emperor again, and emperor triumphant. Looks like Austria won the League War. Also looks like they lost some territory doing so. This is very strange. Last little enemy countries in my heartland are gone now. I believe it's the first time I've attacked Bukhara directly. I have to admit it feels good taking this large chunk of mission critical land from this annoying nation. No disrespect to the real people who live here, of course. Now, strictly speaking, I don't need this land of Mughals for the 2 objectives I've declared for this video, but I need to wait a couple of years for the coring and conversions to complete, so why not? This is a relatively easy war, marked by long sitting times on the mountain forts. After coring and converting some land, we can complete this mission, push into the steppes. Lots of money and manpower, what's not to love about it? All we need now to become the Holy Horde is a few more troops. We have the force limit, manpower and money for this. So, easy. Or so I thought. Apparently, I need 50% cavalry faction. I had no idea what it meant, but looks like they mean half of my army should be cavalry. Okay, now we are done. And by completing this Crusaders of the Steppes mission, we can adopt one of the best government reforms in this game, the Holy Horde. We are now an empire, we can raise non-Catholic provinces, we have extra missionaries and missionary strength, even cheaper cavalry and plus 10% movement speed, and we have a permanent casus belli against all our non-Catholic neighbors. This last benefit of course overlaps with the Deus Vult, which we already have. Before closing this part 1 video, let me demonstrate to you the power of this new raising ability. Here we have a recently conquered non-Catholic province. If we click this raise button, we get 21 mana in each of the 3 categories and a little bit of money, as well as horde unity, which is not relevant in our case, because we are a theocracy. In provinces with greater development, we get plus 40 mana in some categories. Let's recap where we are. We've grown from a few provinces here on the Baltic coast to become a massive country, reaching Anatolia and Greece, India, Siberia. Our goal by 1600 was to conquer between 2,000 and 2,500 development, and we have almost 2,400. I expected to struggle with my economy, and I did, even though now, with 100,000 standing army, I'm still profitable. We managed to get very high army professionalism, we have a bunch of helpful and loyal vassals, and we have started creating our trade companies to become rich now that we can come out of the confines of our mission tree. We have the second largest army in the world after France, and our army is also reasonably strong. Different nations are better than us in some aspects of the army quality, but on balance, we are doing quite well. The little Sistan, for example, has the highest army tradition in the world. How? It's a mystery. We've settled just a bunch of our more developed lands, because we were limited by the governing capacity for most of the game. Now that we're an empire, we can state more. And there we go. The first part of our Teutonic Order One Faith World Conquest is complete. My experience tells me that we have done the setup correctly to complete the One Faith World Conquest. If you do want to see it, give this video a like. As I had mentioned in the beginning, if this video gets more than 200 likes in the first couple of weeks from publication, I will play out and post the rest of this campaign. And if you like and subscribe, me and my best friend Mila will be truly grateful. Here is a small clip of Mila saying her thanks.